Welcome. Have you ever felt stuck in conflictual and habitual responses to complex situations where you see only one way forward, but that one way is not working out for some reason? I've been there. And it can feel really overwhelming and frustrating and irritating. And yeah, you just want to give up sometimes. And that's why I created the Daily Life Brainstorming game. And I'd like to teach you how to play that game. So I'm going to invite you to work along with me as I do this. I'll get you started with a couple of examples and then maybe stop, pause the video, and decide, like, what would you do in that situation? So we'll begin by, let's just imagine a situation where you might have had that kind of response. So imagine that you just finished a difficult meeting with the organization that you run, and they've been discussing a particular issue, and there are mixed views on how to move forward. And you see like one clear, really good path forward. But most of the people on that leadership team don't agree with that position. They don't think that's the right way forward. They're afraid. They think that it's too risky. They just don't see it the way you see it. And you are afraid that this is going to be really the wrong choice for the organization, but you don't see any other options. So here's what I suggest. The first step of the daily life brainstorming game is to sit back and to just make a list. So I'm going to invite you to work along with me as I do this. I'll get you started with a couple of examples and then maybe stop, pause the video, and decide, like, what would you do in that situation? So come up with a list of all the possible options of what you might do in that situation. These do not have to be things you would actually do. They don't have to be realistic. They just have to be possibilities. The idea is to kind of free up your mind, get it thinking in lots of different new directions, kind of play with it, basically. So, once again, the situation is that you've just come back from a contentious meeting at the organization you run. There's some significant work that needs to be done relating to a developing situation, and you you have a clear idea of what would be a really good way forward that would really look towards the future and would be best for the long-term health of the organization. But the people in the organization are they're focused on the quick fix, and they want to do they have a couple different ideas, but all of them are like short term, and you're going to end up in the same situation down the road. And yet they don't see your perspective. And so what can you do? The vote is coming up next week. What can you do? One option would be to continue to advocate strongly for your position. Another option that I came up with was to make a concerted effort to really see the value in each of the other options and to name the value out loud. Another possibility would be to look for another option that kind of combines the best parts of the positions that were put forward at the meeting. Another possibility would be to support the next best option, even though you really don't agree with it. Another possibility would be to just abstain from the vote. Another possibility would be to resign from the organization if the vote doesn't go your way. I'm not saying I would do this, but we're brainstorming. Come up with anything. That makes me think of something else. I could do a cartoon doodle on the pages of my scrap paper during the next meeting that shows the organization blowing up and being completely destroyed by that quick fix option that most of the leaders are thinking about right now. It would certainly help me blow off some steam. Another option, I could ask for a delay of the vote, giving time for some additional research. Here's one. I could imagine myself at that next board meeting. I could imagine myself on a beautiful sunny beach, lying in the sun. So there are the options. You've laid them out. I'm sure you came up with some other ones. That's step one. And step one kind of frees up your mind to play with the possibilities. Step two is that you go through the list one at a time. You go through the list and kind of evaluate the different options. So you might start by crossing out ones that you definitely would never consider. It's not going to happen. They were fun to think about, but it really isn't going to happen. And so I'll go through my list and look at the ones that I definitely wouldn't do. Okay, so I would not resign from the organization if the vote doesn't go my way. That just doesn't make any sense. Fun to think about. I wouldn't do it. I would not abstain from the vote because that doesn't feel responsible. Really doesn't seem productive to continue to advocate strongly for my position. It's not going anywhere. So maybe those three I would cross out. Next, you circle some ideas that are worth exploring. Some things that might be, not necessarily you would definitely do it, but you would think about those options. And so I go through the list again and I circle some. I've circled, and this time make a concerted effort to see the value in each of the other options and actually name the value of some of those out loud. I've also circled look for another option that combines the best parts of the options. I think the cartoon doodle is a pretty good top option there. Not that it's going to solve the problem, but it would certainly help me to feel better and, put my aggravation in a form that isn't really going to bother anybody. So that's my going through the list, crossing off some, circling others. And then evaluate the top options, kind of evaluate which of those top three, and you're going to have a different list from me in this case, evaluate which of those are the top three, and then explore those options. Maybe choose one that you might go forward with. In this case, I think what I would really do is to choose making the concerted effort to see the value in each of the other opinions and naming it out loud, and maybe through that process understanding what would be another way to move forward, what might that might lead to an idea for another option. So that's an example of how the daily life brainstorming game works. I hope that you'll use this tool when you're feeling stuck and overwhelmed.